Hey guys, welcome back. I posted a video a little while ago talking about a ghost shader that I made for a recent game jam that I was a part of. The game didn't end up being great, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about making shaders specifically like this, and I also just made my shaders a lot more versatile. Like I can just take the shader and you can actually do a lot of stuff with it. So let's look into it. This shader was primarily based off of the force field video that Brackeys did a while ago. Well, 3 years ago. Rip Brackeys, by the way. Um, but there's a couple major differences. Um, and so basically, what his force field combines is this little doodad right here, which is a comparison between screen position raw and scene depth with eye sampler. Um, he didn't really explain what they do in the video, so I don't really know either. Um, but fundamentally, what you're getting here is you're finding where objects intersect, and you're applying an effect on top of that. At least in world space. Um, and then you apply a Fresnel on top of it so that you can have an outer effect all the time. So when you combine these, you have a light outer effect all the time and a heavy effect on those intersections. And then this doodad that I've added down here is, yeah, I mean, if you've worked with shaders before, you probably recognize what's happening here. I'm taking some sample noise that's just very chunky, and I'm offsetting it by a function of time. Then we're adding some variables here to just kind of offset it a little bit, be able to control the size of the waves, the offsets of the waves, all that kind of stuff. Just gonna kind of go through here and point out the kind of weird nodes or what I'm doing. Um, so what this is actually going to do is normally this will give you everywhere that's not intersecting. And so we're actually going to multiply it by 1 minus so that we can invert that mask so that we have everything that is intersecting instead. Then we're going to clamp it between 0 and 1 because we're basically looking for alpha values. Um, so where there's no effect, we want, or where it's 0, we want there to be no effect, and where it's 1, we want there to be a full effect. Then we're going to overlay our Fresnel that we made up here on top of this tiling edge effect. And then here we're just multiplying with some extra stuff here. So I have an edge strength here, which is going to show, it's going to basically represent how bold is the edge. Is it partially transparent? Is it fully opaque? That's what you're going to decide with this edge strength. And then we have edge color here, which is being multiplied with this value, which is basically going to allow us to decide what is the edge that we're trying to give it. What color is it? And then there's some other stuff here, like we're going to be feeding it a parameter for the alpha so that we can decide how opaque is our ghost or how transparent is our ghost, depending on which way you want to go with that. And then we're also going to be deciding a body color. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave this on screen for 2 seconds so that y'all can actually like take a screenshot or whatever you want to do. All right, and let's actually go into the game and test this out a little bit. We can go ahead and discard those changes. So when you make a material with a shader that you have made parameters for, you can get a material like this, and you can see our parameters on the right side. You can modify these through script, which I actually show in another video on my channel if you want to go and check that out. And so you could actually modify this during runtime. If you picked up a power up or something and you wanted to change how the effect looks, so you wanted to change the color, you could do that. But let's just run our game and then I can show you a little bit in runtime. This game didn't end up being very good, by the way, so kind of ignore what's happening on the screen other than the effect. But as you can see, we have this Fresnel effect that's happening everywhere that basically that our edges happen. And then we have this effect that happens whenever we intersect something. Okay, so let's just start going through our parameters here. So we have offset. Offset's going to tell us how far away from this intersection do we want this to be. All right. Do we want our effect to actually show? So, I mean, we could set it really high, and then, you know, if we're intersecting anything, which right now it actually counts as us intersecting the floor, then it looks a little bit weird. But if you set it, you know, right here, I think that looks pretty good because you get that good effect on the wall, but you also don't get it creeping up your character. If you set this to a positive value, you're not going to get any effect because it's actually going to be basically our effect is in the wall. Let me see if I can. It's going in the opposite direction of where the camera is. So it's kind of difficult to see. So let's go ahead and reset that back to -3. And then let's talk about colors really quick. So there's 3 major things that affect the actual look, or at least coloration and transparency of this. And those are going to be alpha, edge color, and base color. And so our edge, we can change it to be whatever we want it to be. We got this little color selector here. As you can see, as I go around, it's just going to change the effect that we're applying, both the Fresnel and the intersection. You could actually split them off and have them be different colors, but the way that I have it set up, they're going to be affected by the same color. Okay. Let's put that back as teal. And then we have our alpha here. So that's going to tell us how opaque is our whole body. So we could be, you know, we could be super transparent. Let's do that. Actually, that's a little bit too transparent. There we go. So now you can hardly see me, but when I touch a wall, you can kind of see me a little bit more because that effect is showing. Okay, I believe we had like 0.2. And then, okay, let's set this high as well. So if you go 1, which is fully opaque, it looks a little weird. But that also is a little bit to do with our model and not just the fact that it's fully opaque. Then we can change what color is our bodies. So again, it's exactly the same thing. Where you have this color wheel, you can make the body any color you want it to be. So I could have a ghost that's pink on the inside and red on the outside. You know, I could do whatever I want to do with that. And I could also like increase emission. So if you want to do like post-processing effects, this will also plug into that. It'll work very nicely. So let's fix all this up. And then the next things that we're going to want to talk about are our wave amplitude, our wave frequency, and our edge strength. So these are all things that affect what it looks like when we're intersecting with a wall. So let's just find a nice little spot. Let's call it right here. Actually, I want to boost up our alpha a little bit. Okay. So on edge strength, this is going to specifically control the actual alpha of the edge. Well, both of Fresnel and the edge, because they're all being controlled by the same stuff. And so as you can see, like we crank it up really high, super vibrant. We crank it down really low. It goes black and then it goes negative. Basically like inverting the saturation here. And then we have wave amplitude, which it's going to look a little weird as you're kind of pumping this down. But you can have it travel forward or backwards. Let me get it back to the default value. But yeah, basically this is just going to control how fast are the waves coming. Actually, sorry, this controls how large the waves are. It's amplitude, not frequency. So if you're thinking about like electricity or just sine waves in general, that's exactly what we're doing here, right? And then our frequency, as you pump it up, you're going to get more waves. So we pump this way up. There's actually some weird stuff happening here. Because if you look, we have like these strange artifacts that are starting to show up. Where we're having like rectangular waves, basically. What if I just like gave it a metric boatload of 9s? Oh, it just gives up. But yeah, I guess if you give it a 1, it'll give you that kind of very light wiggly pattern, but this just controls the frequency of the waves. Okay, let's back that out to our normal value. And that's pretty much it. That's the entire shader. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you get use out of this. And I'll see you guys around.